So Gangsta is finally here, and as I already said on Wednesday of last week, that Gangsta was delayed and it was going to be coming out sometime on Sunday. And here it is. So to briefly cover why Gangsta is now on a Sunday instead of a Wednesday, let me quickly go over that if you didn't watch what I said on Wednesday. So, for some reason, something happened to the broadcasting channel that airs Gangsta. Supposedly, Gangsta had to move over to a Sunday release schedule instead of a Wednesday release schedule. I don't know exactly what type of details there were, but Gangsta had to switch channels, and so it went to a Sunday release. So, from now on, Gangsta is going to be coming out on a Sunday, not a Wednesday. Next week, it will also be coming out on a Sunday. And just to quickly go over something real quick, I know a bunch of Chibis are going to ask as well, what's going on with Himoto? So Himoto, as I heard, there's some form of holiday or sports game in Japan, and it got delayed until Sunday this weekend, but it should go back to regular release schedule by Wednesday. So Himoto should start airing once again on a Wednesday, but we'll have to see when Wednesday gets here. But anyways, getting into this episode of Gangsta, I was surprised to see the fight take majority of the episode. Like, I didn't expect the Doug versus Nicholas fight to be the main front and center of this episode, because I thought the fight, normally when it comes to Gangsta, from what we have seen, the fights are usually not that long. They're usually maybe 3 minutes to 4 minutes, maybe 5 at the maximum, and this entire episode kind of focuses on the Doug versus Nicholas fight, which is not a bad thing. The fight looked pretty badass. I actually liked the fight. The animation looked really nice, and the art looked really nice. I mean, it wasn't the best ever, but the art and animation did look pretty damn good for that scene. It looked kind of fluid. So, one thing I want to point out is that we come to get the little subtle hints throughout this entire episode about the 3 laws, to finding out that at one point in time, that Nicholas was a C3 ranked Twilight agent. And then we also kind of find out a connection between, Warwick and Nicholas, and how at one point in time something happened with Warwick, and then Nicholas went after the head honcho of the Mafia, the big head honcho head, and tried to kill him in the past. And so, we get subtle hints throughout this entire episode about these little details, and so let's dive into them and let's discuss them. So first things right off the bat, there is some form of science fiction taking place in this series, because at the beginning of the episode and towards the end of the episode, when we get to see that girl member Twilight walk up that seems to be a really big head honcho boss, we have it to where we find out more about these Twilights. These Twilights are supposedly like genetically engineered soldiers. For instance, they're human beings that probably have been altered in some way in their genetics, and they now are a little bit stronger than normals. That's what, Warwick was called in this episode. And so, we come to find out there is some form of sci-fi, I guess you can say, in this series, science fiction, and I don't know how far it really goes, because if you do think about it, this series, Gangsta, has had some forms of a little bit of supernatural things taking place. Like, I mean, look at what Nicholas did in this episode. He ran up the fucking wall like he was defying gravity. Did you see what he was doing? Like, when he went after Doug, he was just running up that damn wall, and I know Gangsta is an anime, I know this is an anime, I mean, don't look at anime as it should follow real-life physics, I shouldn't think that, but the series has this realistic vibe to it. It gives Gangstas, Mafia, different things I've covered before, and so you wouldn't expect some form of supernatural tag, and I don't know if it's supernatural, just could be special effects just to add that flair to the anime episode, which I've seen that done before. But finding out that now that Nicholas is some form of genetically engineered, or all Twilights are genetically engineered or altered in some way, that makes us assume that there could be some form of supernatural to the series. Not like spirit-wise, but, like some form of supernatural, like super strength and shit. Besides that, though, the 3 laws. The 3 laws, according to what we get hints at, is the 3 laws has it to where, one thing's first, you shouldn't harm normals. You can't harm normals. Number 2, obey your master. And number 3, the other one is defend yourself. It's defend yourself, I'm guessing defend yourself against if you get attacked. And we get to find out these 3 laws that were set in place to give, I guess, human rights to the Twilights. For instance, Twilights in the past, from what we found out, was slaves. All Twilights were slaves. For instance, Nicholas, at one point in time, was a slave. And when these 3 laws came to pass by these 4 fathers, they got their rights back. They got some form of minimal rights where they can do what they want, besides, going out and harming normals, and you have to obey your master. But, I mean, they kind of are guaranteed a little bit more human rights. So, we kind of find out about the 3 laws, we kind of find out about these 4 fathers, which were hinted at. One of the 4 fathers are the Mafia head honcho, you know, the dude in this episode that got drug off out of the battlefield. He's one of the 4 fathers that set in place these laws. And we don't know the other 3, but if I had to, I guess, bet or make, you know, place bets on this, when they say 4 fathers, I highly doubt it's actually just entitled to guys in general. I feel like the girl that was introduced in this episode that seems to be a big boss in the Twilights, I mean, the way she comes out and kind of schools Nicholas like that, fucking crazy. I think she's probably someone in a similar position as the Mafia head boss, and she reminds me a lot of Balalaika. I think that's how you say her name. You know the Russian girl from Black Lagoon? You remember the head honcho Mafia boss in Black Lagoon, Bakalaika, just, I forget her name, it starts with a B, and it's a big long-ass name, but she was a badass, and when I saw that character get introduced in this episode, she reminded me a lot of her, and that's what made me assume that she most likely is someone very important that is high up there on the leaderboard status when it comes to, I guess, the rights of the city, of what goes down. Besides that, the other 2, I would say maybe the Doctor. The Doctor might be one of them, but, I don't know. He hasn't shown much yet, but we'll see. Now, speaking of the Doctor, at the end of the episode, we get to see it to where Alex disappears. Alex is abducted, and of course, there's going to be a lot of questions like, okay, so what happened to Alex? Did she just go fucking mentally insane, and did she just run out there and leave, or did something else happen? Now, of course, it's PTSD that's going on, and I think there's more to it. In this episode, you see it to where there's like some form of coat. Like, it looked like a lab coat or something that was walking up the stairs. I feel like it's the Dr. Theo that walked in there to grab Alex. Because if you think about it, at the end of the episode, you don't see the doctor. He's not in, you know, the doctor's office with you. I think her girl's name is Nina. I probably got that wrong. But, you know, the little girl that's fixing up Nicholas and Doug at the end of this episode, the doctor's nowhere to be seen, and I feel like he was going to Alex, because if you think about it, he did give Alex that piece of paper a couple episodes back, and it might be that he came there to pick her up and just try to help her out since she's going mentally insane. I mean, seeing shit, that might be what's going on. So I don't really think she got abducted. I think just the doctor went to go help her out. So that's where I think that is going right there, and that's about it when it comes to this episode. Episode overall, really badass. I mean, Nicholas, he's on some downers right now. He can't do shit. Doug is also on some downers, and maybe Doug might join our handyman group. He would definitely be some good backup for our group and to be able to fight future operations if they have 2 A0s on their team. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You'll have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.